Like to welcome y'all to the mainly Eminem show. Welcome y'all to the mainly Eminem show.
Hello and welcome to the Mainly Eminem podcast in association with ePro. This is part 3 of our review for The Death of Slim Shady. Joining me today is Ross as we continue where we left off, and we start with track number 12. So that is a skit and it's called Breaking News, and the scene for this track, of course it being a skit, is protest scenes in Detroit. Mostly outside Mom's Spaghetti. So the track starts off with Eminem himself being held captive by his alter ego Slim Shady as they navigate the aftermath of Slim's attempt to make Eminem disappear. So the protest scene is narrated by Detroit news anchors Kimberly Gill and David Cillian, who offer a critical overview of the public's outrage with the demonstrators rallying outside Mom's Spaghetti. Part of the skit is visualised in the Basement trailer video, which was posted just hours before the album's release. So that was track number 12. So track 13 is of course Guilty Conscience 2, and this is a sequel to the 1999 song Guilty Conscience. The original track focused on Slim Shady influencing different people to do morally wrong things, along with Dr. Dre's attempts to do the opposite. On the other hand, this sequel is written as a conversation basically, or an argument between Eminem and his alter ego. So, Ross, what did you make of this track?
I really enjoyed it. I was a little bit surprised that we didn't get like the Dre feature being like a direct sequel to Guilty Conscience, but a very clever track. He addresses quite a few issues that obviously I think people have pointed out before. Obviously, the idea that one can't work without the other, which is really good. Him sort of not punishing Slim Shady, but pointing out that there's things he can't say in this day and age. And, Slim Shady then goes on to make a couple of points like he does later in the song. He doubles down and says, I'm sorry, Marshall's a pussy. He's Dre and Jimmy's puppet, which I liked, because obviously that's probably something that, a couple of haters might throw around to him, might have done in the early days, but it's cool that he's showing a little bit of awareness towards it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm pretty sure, I'm like 90% sure it's the same beat as Trouble, just with a couple of different more instruments added in there, but I'm pretty sure it's the same beat. So that was quite a cool callback to that track, because obviously Trouble is about them two obviously arguing and Slim Shady just going nuts and Marshall trying to calm it down. This is kind of similar. They're both kind of saying some fiendish things. I mean, even Eminem mentions is it David Carradine, whatever his name is?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
He's mentioned him before off of with a track with Royce da 5'9", I'm pretty sure, off of Welcome to Hell on the Bad Meets Evil album. I'm pretty sure he has a bar about David Carradine and that as well. Saying I die hard. It's funny again, another little throwback reference, but yeah, overall I really enjoyed this song. I do think the AI sounded a little bit ropey at the beginning, the voice AI, but that's to be expected because it's not perfect. It's a relatively new technology, but I thought it worked really well. What about yourself?
Yeah, so there was a lot of sort of variations to the song "My Darling" from Relapse, because that was a sort of, the devil was inside and sort of that track, and pretty much was basically Slim Shady. I'll be honest, when I listened to the track for the first time, I was just a little bit confused, just obviously because it was the first listen. I don't know why, but I think we maybe mentioned it on the sort of pre-show before. I thought for some reason that because Dr. Dre was in the original Guilty Conscience that there might have been, a feature with him and possibly Snoop Dogg in it, but no, in terms of the track itself, it's very cleverly done. And I really want to see visuals from this song. I really hope that they do a music video for this in the future. If I'm right in saying there was some sort of snippets online of like pictures of sort of Slim Shady, like sort of models on the floor with knives through them.
That's right. That was like so obviously he did the trailer, didn't he? Around shortly after Dre announced the album on the Kimmel show, whatever it was. There was like a promo of like a Detroit TV series where an investigator is just like investigating the death of Slim Shady, and in that clip there is a model or I guess a mannequin on the floor with a knife in it.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I'm guessing those were from that. But I mean, it could tie in quite well, especially that this song does quite well to build a story. Like with them fighting at the end, you can hear the sound effects. There's like a scuffle on the floor and stuff.
Mhm.
One thing I did enjoy a lot with this song was how he uses like the layers of vocals to show that one person's getting more power over the other. So there's that bit where Slim Shady goes on to say, "I gave you power to use me as an excuse to be evil. You created me to say everything you didn't have the balls to say." He's got his vocals like layered up like
Yeah.
3 times, and I got this mental image when I was watching it that this sort of big shadow was coming out of Slim Shady and taking over the room a little bit, saying, "Oh no, you're losing control of me again." And then they go into a bit of a scrap, and yeah, it goes into the end. There is a point I am confused about, but I'll mention it when we get onto the later song because it's
Uh,
regarding a bar from that sort of contradicts what he says in this song. But
yeah, so from the sort of our perspective of this track,
mm,
it seems to be like after arguing the voices of Eminem and Slim Shady combine into one, but the
yeah,
former eventually gains the upper hand, and then the conflict sort of goes with Eminem shooting and killing Shady. So, it's revealed then after that the battle only happened in a dream as M wakes up with When I'm Gone playing in the background, and then of course he calls his manager Paul to explain it
mm,
all. So I mean, that is the way the sort of conceptual track of it has sort of flown from the start to where we are. But there is obviously, as we discuss further down, there might be other meanings towards this track.
yeah, yeah. I just I again I really enjoyed it. Very clever concept. It's not necessarily a direct sequel, I would say, to the first Guilty Conscience, because that was more you were given sort of a character, weren't you? Like, this is Eddie or so and so. He's
Yeah.
just come home from work. You don't really get that with this. This is a matter of, it's like almost, there's two ways you look at it. Slim Shady himself as a second person in the room with him, or Eminem is having this internal struggle, and what's going on is actually all happening in his head a little bit.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I definitely think we need to see visuals just for the fact that this song is so well layered and written. It
Uh-huh.
would be silly to. It would be a missed opportunity for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. So the production on this was, of course, M himself, Dem Joints, and Fred Rick. In terms of the commercial performance of the track, done pretty well, considering it was a sort of deep cut from the album. It got to number 45 on Billboard, 31 in the Canadian singles charts, and number 32 in New Zealand. So we go on to our next track, and it is number 14, and it's Head Honcho. So this is starring Shady signee Easmill, and I think for those that maybe aren't totally aware of Easmill, he signed to Eminem maybe about 2 years ago, and yeah, they've already done a track just last year called Realist. So it starts off with Ismail, who opens the track with a blend of English and Filipino sort of cultural identities. Of course, he's speaking Spanish as well in it, and from that sort of layer it goes on to M's verse. So this track is produced by M, Ismail, Louis Resto, and Jamil Iose, and it's I quite enjoy this track. I'll be honest, it's not I've not played it as much as the sort of start of the album, the first sort of 10, 11 tracks. It is growing on me as I play it more, but it's different because with Ismail, if you remember, he obviously signed 2 years ago, but I
Mm.
think I'm right in saying he's the first Shady Aftermath signee to appear on an Eminem album since, I think it's Stat Quo, which was back in the re-up in 2007.
That's
So
true,
it's been
actually.
it's been a while since we've actually had someone that's on the label, because obviously Grip and West Side Boogie, they've still not appeared on an M album. So it's good to see that he's eventually went with a fellow artist on his label. What did you make of this track?
I really enjoyed it. For some reason beyond me, this one doesn't seem to be doing too well to the public eye on like Twitter.
Hmm.
But I really enjoy Easy Mill's like flow. The fact that I think it's quite a flex to get on an Eminem song and rap in your native tongue for a start and make it
Yeah,
sound so good. I mean, I can't think of another artist that's done that, of an artist as big as maybe Eminem.
yeah.
So that must be a big moment for him. So it which is really cool. But I think for me, the main thing as well is that I don't know which song it is. You might be able to help me out, but the flow of Easy Mill's chorus is so familiar. I don't know where it comes from. It sounds a little bit like It Must Be the Gunja from Relapse a little bit, but it's just been bugging me since I first heard this song. It sounds very similar, but M's verse on this is probably one of my favorites off the album. It's got a lot of substance. He's not just rhyming for the sake of rhyming. He's like, there's a couple of stories in here that I think he hasn't really mentioned before. His uncle getting stabbed, took a knife right in the abs. All he was trying to do was get his tricycle back.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I can't quite comprehend living somewhere that's that dangerous just to try and get a kid's bike back and you get stabbed in the ribs. Like, that is insane to me. But yeah, and then obviously he goes on how he was bullied as well by these two fat kids that sort of picked on him a lot. And then he goes on to sort of say that every time he comes out and releases a new verse, they expect him to reinvent the wheel. Now, I kind of liked this because this is a direct reply to everybody that's been saying, oh, he's not like he was back in the day. Well, of course, if you want to listen to the Eminem show, here's an idea. Go and listen to the Eminem show.
Exactly.
Like, don't make another album doing it, because then you'll just say the same thing. Oh, he hasn't changed his style for 20 years. If you can't understand that an artist is going to grow, I don't really know why you're following them in the first page. But yeah, I really enjoyed this song from start to finish. Easy Mill did really well. His flow was really crazy. But yeah, I think this is probably one of my favourite verses that M has on the album. I don't know, just the beat's crazy as well.
What did you make of the "Give a Fuck If You Hate Me" worse than each track on Revival?
Do you know what's funny? When I first listened to this, I said to my older brother, I was like, I think we got up to like Antichrist, and I was saying, oh wow, he's done really well. He's not mentioned Revival yet. I was like, he's obviously let it go. He's not bitter anymore. I think he's never going to be completely over it. No. Fair enough. But again, I just think it's one of those sort of shame. I do wonder maybe what he would have sounded like had Revival not got the bad reviews it had. Maybe we wouldn't have an album like this if Revival
wouldn't have got Kamikaze anyway, that's for sure.
Exactly. So yeah, a couple of like nice little hints as well, and then obviously the final lyric that literally was a perfect way to end a song was but you taming me ain't gonna happen. I'll live on planet denial for the rest of my life, but you'll be a stand till I die though. Obviously Dido is the way he says it.
Yeah.
Very clever. Yeah, very good. And it's crazy that he's still also sort of shouting Dido out, however 20 odd years on, which is cool.
Yeah. That is good. Yeah, so that was track 14, and yeah, just to sort of to finish off on it, I think that this track, as I said, from my perspective anyway, is getting better the more and more I listen to it.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, I'm hoping that within the next few weeks, it'll definitely improve my opinion a little bit. But as I said, with the first Shady record signee, it was actually that was right with the stat quo, but it was also the last person that was on Shady Records to actually be on an Eminem album was 50 Cent back in 2009 for Crack a Bottle. So it's been a while. Yeah, it has been a while. So after that, we go on to track number 15, and that is Temporary, featuring Skylar Grey. This is produced by M and Skylar, and yeah, Ross, quite an emotional track this, to be fair. Basically a heartfelt sort of farewell for his daughter Hayley to sort of listen to when he's gone. So there's a lot of blended sort of piano in this. The production does remind me a little bit of Walk on Water, because there isn't that much sort of hip hop side of production. It is mostly a sort of piano that's going through it. And yeah, it recalls Eminem's talking about his relationships, with his daughter, and what he wants for her to obviously not think about when the time happens to obviously, you will get over it. It will be all fine. What did you make of this track?
I watched this song absolutely cripple my older brother, because he's got his firstborn child as a little girl, and we listened to the album together for the first time. I don't think he was expecting it. He was in absolute bits, because he said, that touches a nerve, that touches somewhere that no one's ever really done before. It's not something he's put a lot of thought into. I don't have a kid, so I can't understand it. There is sadly the only thing that is putting me off the song is that it is quite sad, and it is a tough pill to swallow when you hear it. I'm not saying I'm never going to listen to it again, but I agree, it definitely doesn't sound like a hip hop song, which is fine. I did see as well that Skylar Grey actually posted on her Instagram saying that she was really struggling with writer's block around the time that this song was like brought to her, and she just said one day it just suddenly came to her, and she just got writing and writing, and now, yeah, she said it's kind of pulled her out of a hole that she didn't know she was going to be able to recover from. So I guess it's just that impact that Eminem has and the loyalty he has to Skylar as well, that he could trust her with such an important message to his daughter as well.
Yeah, because there seems to be a small section of the fan base that they say there's too many collaborations between the two, but I mean, you can't say anything for this track. Like it's one of Skylar Grey's best hooks ever, 100%. In my opinion.
And it's a silly complaint, if you ask me, that they have too many collabs, because can you name more than one of them that you severely sort of dislike? Really, I can't.
Nah,
I think everything they've done has been pretty good, so I don't see how it's a complaint. There's just some people out there that would like to moan, but he did also address the rest of his family, even his brother Nate, which was quite nice, because I know that he's had a couple more public appearances in the last couple of years. So, but yeah, again, I can't really relate to the song. I don't have kids myself, but my older brother, yeah, ruined him. Absolutely ruined him. And the use of the sort of family footage as well. Oh God, yeah, that pulled on the heartstrings as well.
A lump on the throat. Even the sort of reactors on YouTube that were doing, the full album review, and when they listened to it for the first time, I think just about every one of them was, if not crying, then close to tears, which says it all.
Kind of reminded me of Mockingbird in the sense that in the video he's watching the old video, the family videos and stuff. I guess we just kind of got it the other way around with this song. He's actually used it in the track. Although it was nice that he ended the song with a bit of like a more of a laugh to it, with the fact that he caught Haley like swearing on tape.
Yeah, got you on tape cussing.
Nice touch. You could go into an Eminem song and end up crying, but you're going to come out of it smiling, which I kind of liked.
Yeah. Good wee bit of humour towards the end of that. So, very emotional track, especially if you have kids. And in terms of commercial performance, Billboard Hot 100, number 56, and on the UK singles charts, it also got to number 41. Track number 16 is Bad One, and that is featuring White Gold with production from Eminem and Louis Resto. This is the second collaboration on the album with White Gold, of course. The second track on the album is Habits, and the fourth overall. White Gold featured on You Go and Learn and Zeus. So Bad One is about his self-awareness of his success, along with the sort of arrogance and controversies throughout his career. It also reflects on the impact of rap, and he addresses the critics and his sort of relationships in the past as well. Ross, what was your views on this track?
I really enjoyed this one. White Gold is currently 4 for 4, if you ask me.
Fair doubt.
Absolutely smashing the collaborations. Obviously, Eminem enjoys working with him. I really like the chorus. I love the beat as well. Definitely not the kind of beat I'd expect to hear Eminem maybe rapping over. And it's got like a bit of like tongue-in-cheek humor as well, like sort of towards the end, with the way he's mentioning the sub-genre of corny white rappers. He's not a fan of it. But it ain't his fault. But like sock puppets, he had a hand in it. That's quite funny.
And yeah, he seems to be getting a lot of stick over the years for those sort of Tom McDonald's, etc. But I mean, it is what it is when you're a hugely successful artist. Like, I dare say, like back in the day, there would have been artists that looked up to the likes of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones that were trying to do their own and maybe sound a little bit sort of similar to them, and no doubt they would have probably been slaughtered as well. So it's not these artists' fault that these people have came up with through him being white, basically, more to the point as well.
I think with regards to, again, another mention, Puff or P Diddy or Puff Daddy, whatever the fuck you want to call him. It sounds like something that Puff would do at a party with Aaron Hall, because I just love to fuck with you. Yeah, again, he's just not letting the man breathe. Fair enough. I mean, he might be able to run away from the American law, but he is not getting away from Marshall Mathers at all.
Definitely not.
But this is I wanted to go back to with regards to Guilty Conscience 2. This is what I was going to mention, is I think this song sort of contradicts Guilty Conscience 2 a little bit in my eyes, and maybe I don't know if he's changed the placement of the song on the album. So in obviously Guilty Conscience 2, he says towards the end that this is his last hurrah. So to like MGK, Ja Rule, Cannabis, if you're listening, Nick, Limp Bizkit, Zeno, all that lot, Will Smith. He says, I'm welcoming you to my last hurrah. I bid you goodbye. Murder, suicide, kill shot, booyaka. Yeah, all that shit. Basically saying he's done with the beef now. Then you get to this track, and we get towards the sort of end, and he says, I have to keep going Tyson on Kelly. Because obviously he's apparently throwing
Sending
subs.
subs.
Yeah. So I don't understand. Maybe he's changed the placement of the song, but 2-3 tracks ago, you addressed it saying you're going to leave it there and you're not going to like go any further with it. And then you say, I got to keep going Tyson on Kelly. I bodied him twice already. This little motherfucker's back throwing subs like a food fight in the deli. His bar about that is why he got the attitude he got. Like Liza Minnelli, brilliant. Loved it. He obviously says, my male ego is the size of the belly on Jelly Roll. Now, MGK and Jelly Roll are, I think, quite close. I think they're good friends. They've just released a collaboration together as well. Don't know if that was a slight sub towards MGK, maybe, more so than Jelly Roll. But, yeah, I don't know. What did you think? I mean, it's a bit weird that he's trying to say that he's dropping all the beefs and the feuds, and then 3 songs later he starts jabbing at MGK again.
I think the beef between Eminem and MGK is maybe a little bit different. I think because, I don't know, like it obviously happened in 2018.
It's fresh,
he's still sending subs, like, you know, sort of the last couple tracks that MGK's done. There's been a few lines that you would maybe think could be aimed at M. So yeah, I think if it is, it's more of a sort of Eminem and MGK beef, as such as a sort of shady beef, because you would like to think, you know, the whole alter ego beef was sort of, you know, the early days of the Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, and all that stuff. But yeah, I know what you mean. It is an interesting one to look at, but it's one of those ones, isn't it? Like, you know, when you listen to Kill Shot, you know it's not really a Slim Shady sort of track. It's predominantly Eminem saying it from that perspective. But yeah, I know what you mean when he's sort of contradicting himself a little bit.
I understand it. It's one of those things. I mean, it might be that he recorded Guilty Conscience 2 a while ago, and then a couple of months later he was making this song and he heard some of the MGK subs and decided to throw it in there. You just never know. But again, I'm not going to let it ruin the song, because this one's again probably in my top 5, maybe top 10 of the whole album. I just love White Gold's chorus. His hook is amazing. And yeah, some of the flows that Eminem's got on this are just ridiculous as well.
There was quite a funny sort of immature line towards the end of it, where he says, you said you're looking for miniature golf, thought you said looking for men to jerk off.
Yeah, I like that as well.
That was good. And then he goes, you know, sick as a dog, Biggie's gone, Tupac, even still mentioning Biggie and Tupac, which is good as well, because obviously huge inspirations, and one of the reasons why he'd started doing rap as well. So yeah, I like this track as well. Sort of same with what I said from the previous track. Should have played it a lot more than I should have. But yeah, it's another good collaboration with White Gold as well. So can't complain on that matter. So track in number 17 is of course Toby, and that is featuring Baby Tron and Big Sean. Now this track came out maybe about 2 weeks, would you say, just before the album came out?
Yeah, it was July 2nd, wasn't it? So
yeah,
a couple of weeks
so
beforehand.
It was accompanied, of course, by a music video that was, of course, delayed as well. But when it did release, the visuals on it are really good. There is, I think, from the Doomsday 2 video, which we discussed in the past, Baby Tron and Big Sean were in that as well, making cameos. And I always remember you said when that dropped that, is this, you know, indications that these artists could be on the album? And you were pretty much spot on with that.
Yeah, just Jid was also in that Doomsday video. Obviously, he was on Fuel. The only 2 we didn't get was Sway Lee and Denzel Curry. So fingers crossed for those in the future. But yeah, this was an interesting track. Couple of points that I love. I know that Eminem's a massive Spider-Man nerd, bit of a Marvel nerd. Obviously, the Toby, talking about Toby Maguire, was bit by a spider. The actual single artwork as well, with Eminem, Big Sean, and Baby Tron all pointing at each other. Being
that was good. I like that.
Meme. that was cool. I really liked that. I like the fact that you've got, I would probably say, 3 generations of Detroit rappers here, or rappers in general. Sorry, you've got Eminem, been around for a while. Big Sean came up probably a few years ago now in comparison.
Early
And then,
tens, yeah.
yeah, then Baby Tron, but a lot more recent. So I like that. I think they all complemented each other as well. Obviously, I think a couple of Big Sean's bars were sort of direct follow-ons from Baby Tron's. If he Obi-Wan, that I gotta be Yoda. I liked that. I thought that was cool. Yeah, with regards to the video being delayed, not really sure what happened there. Maybe it wasn't on his time frame to get the video done. But I would have hoped that there was just a little bit more to the beat for me. Not a lot goes on. Doesn't affect the delivery of all of their verses because they were all really good. But I just kind of kept waiting for something to kick in, and it just never hit, which is fine. But yeah, I don't know. It's just don't know if you felt maybe the same.
Yeah, I think like the guitar riff that's in it is really good, and you're expecting it to sort of gain traction and sort of get bigger, and maybe more instruments or whatever enter it. But no, I really do like this track. I remember at a time, just even the fact that he's of course mentioned the whole sort of top 5 on Billboard. Which for those that maybe don't know, Billboard released I think it was 100 or 50 best hip hop rappers or artists of all time. Eminem was named in number 5 on that, and there was a lot of people from even within hip hop, like with the likes of Melly Mel saying, "Oh, he doesn't deserve that. He's only there because he's white," etc., etc. So it was quite good to see him sort of address that. But then, of course, he sort of dissed Melly Mel last year, but then he sort of changes it up by this time, saying that man is a legend, bitch, so am I. So what did you make of that sort of side of things?
I personally, I think it's fine. I don't have any issue with him having a bit of an ego. There's not another rapper around at the moment that's been making albums 20 years long that's selling the amount he's selling, or just as popular as he is. People forget that Eminem is probably the second most streamed rapper, I think, next to Drake at the moment.
Which is insane. Absolutely insane.
He's gone through 3 different generations of music releases. He's gone from cassettes and CDs now to iTunes, which everything was digital purchases, and now to streaming, and he is still sitting at the top. It's just like mind-blowing. I just thought, I don't really know, to be honest. I think it's fine with him having an ego. He has a very good point. That man is a legend. Well, so is he, and probably a bit more current than Melly Mel is. Yeah, and then some. I mean, I could probably ask my girlfriend who's Melly Mel, and she'd be like, who? But and you could go and ask someone who doesn't speak any English. You say the word Eminem, they'll go, "Oh yeah, Eminem." Yeah, they'll put their thumbs up. Like, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, so no, it was refreshing to see. I must admit, Big Sean's verse was unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it might be my favourite Sean verse.
So solid. Like, I've not listened to a lot of his stuff in sort of recent years, but I remember his early stuff sounding. I mean, that verse sounds very familiar to that early day Big Sean. So that was amazing to see. So yeah, the track. The only thing that maybe affected the performance in the sort of charts was the fact that the track dropped on like a Tuesday afternoon, which was a bit weird, and then the music video was supposed to drop on the following Monday, but then got delayed by a couple of days, so it maybe distorted the impact that they would have wanted. So I think it entered the Billboard charts at the time at around about 32, and then once the album came out, it jumped up to 24, and of course over here in the UK it got to number 29 as well. And I think even the performance, you obviously expect a lot of these tracks to hit the Billboard singles charts. That's just where obviously the bulk of the streams are going to come from anyway, from your Spotify's and the likes. But what an impressive the stats that he's got in the UK for a lot of these tracks is just unreal as well. Obviously with Houdini getting to number 1 for 2 weeks, and even I read on Twitter that it's not left the top 10 yet. That's crazy. I think it's 11 or 12 weeks, and around about 11-12 weeks in the top 10. So yeah, it's crazy to see, and it's good. another strong chart position for Toby as well. So we will go over now to track 18, and yeah, it's another skit, and it is called Guess Who's Back, and it's produced by Eminem, and it is the resurgence of Ken Kniff, who last appeared, Ross, when do you think? Was it Relapse?
No, it was
Or was it
2013 on the Marshall Mathers
Marshall Mathers
LP2.
LP2?
He
So it
appears at
was.
the end of Evil Twin on just the standard version, doesn't he?
That's correct, yeah. So that was his
but yeah,
first
even
appearance.
so, 10 years, so long time.
I think we got to thank Lil Wayne for that as well.
Yeah, appreciate that. I think he mentioned it in his podcast interview. Was it a podcast interview he did?
Yeah, like Em was on the podcast with him during lockdown, and then Wheezy basically said, "Yeah, what happened to Ken?" And then Em's like, "Who?" And he's like, "Ken Kniff," and he's like, "Oh fuck, yeah, totally forgot about him." And then so we got a wish. There's also a bizarre Ken Kniff account on Twitter that seems to pretend that he knows things, but I don't think he does. There's that account's repping Ken Kniff anyway. And I'm also gutted that Blake's not here, because we all know that he has a great Ken Kniff impression.
He does indeed.
So from that track, as I said, it's just a skit, and the final track of the album is Somebody Save Me featuring Jelly Roll. This is produced by Benny Blanco, Emil Haney and Eminem, and it's currently the third single from the album so far. And yeah, it's another emotional track. This is based on a sort of alternate reality or alternate timeline, where from that perspective Eminem overdosed and died, and this is basically him, writing a letter saying sorry to all the members of his family, his daughters, his brother, just saying, sorry I didn't, for Haley, sorry I didn't get to see your podcast, his brother, sorry I didn't see, my nephews. So, another sort of emotional track from that. What was your view on this track, Ross?
I much prefer this song as a whole over Temporary. I find it's got a lot more replay value for me. I get very strong Revival vibes from this song, but the positives from Revival, so it kind of sounds like his last final tracks, Castle and a Rose.
It does, yeah.
I don't know what it is. There's some stuff on this as well. I think Jelly Roll's voice is like very unique. His delivery is amazing. I think, obviously, I know it's a sample. Jelly Roll has his own version of the song.
Yeah, the track
slower.
Save Me. Yeah.
So it's a little bit slower, but there's just something about him going through I've been staring at the video of Haley almost daily of her playing guitar in hopes maybe it'll give me the power to fight. I mean, I've never been in a position where you'll kind of feel helpless and having to fight to that extent. So I could imagine it must be hard for him to just write this music, let alone put it out there as well for the whole world. And then for this to be the final note of the album, hearing Jelly Roll go on about how he's a lost cause, don't waste your time on me, I'm damaged beyond repair. It really made me feel quite bad for him and his family and what they had to go through as a whole. I know, obviously, as fans, we missed out on music for however many years, but we did very, very, very nearly see the end of Eminem, and it could have been a completely different story. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this one. I don't suppose you saw what Jelly Roll said about Eminem?
I think there was an interview recently where whatever podcast he was on, they were saying how it was to sort of meet him, and he was saying that he was talking too much, and he sort of had to apologise for talking too fast to him. And yeah, I mean, it's one of his legends, one of his inspirations growing up. He put that Instagram post up about his legends were somewhere between Willie Nelson and Eminem. So it was good to see I've liked Jelly Roll for quite a few years now. I do like a bit of country every now and then. So I was aware of this track, the chorus from the original Save Me before it, but it blends in really well with obviously what M's talking about as well. They say my lifestyle was bad for my health, and then back in 2006, 2007, of course he had his addiction to the prescription drugs as well. So it's as we've said, it's like an alternate sort of reality, but it just shows you how close it could have been to happening. Obviously, with we've listened to the Recovery album, the song Going Through Changes, where he's basically wakes up in the hospital full of tubes. So it could have happened a totally different way.
I mean, that intro as well, with more, I'm guessing, from home footage of Eminem and Elena, where he's obviously intoxicated on something, or he's just really depressed.
Yeah.
Obviously with the death of Proof, and you can hear her saying, "Come on, food's here," and it sounds like he can't even get off the sofa or out of bed. My God, I just thought that takes a lot of balls to put on your album. 100%. That is a peek behind the
Oh,
curtain.
Christ, aye.
Not many people would probably offer in certain circumstances. So, yeah, hats off to him for putting that on the album. And maybe, I think in the last few years he's definitely gotten better at talking about
Oh, yeah.
his addiction and stuff, like the Juice World song, the Lace
Mhm.
It. So well done, so tasteful. Again, I think this might just be a sobering moment for anybody that might be going through this sort of stuff. Listen to what it was doing to his family at the beginning. There, you can hear that he doesn't even want to be around his own children, and this guy is very, very family orientated. So, yeah, a very brave move from Eminem, and I think it really pays off. And yeah, what a way to end the album. To be
Yeah,
honest.
no, you're right about that. Another sort of emotional track to finish on. And in terms of commercial performance, again, it done well. Number 32 over here in the UK, number 27 in the States. And for whatever reason, it was despite obviously a music video could be in the works, we don't know for sure yet, but it managed to get to number 6 over in Sweden, so the Swedish fans were certainly feeling this song anyway. What do you think about, I would say it has officially been announced as a third single because it is on Spotify as the latest single. Do you think there's going to be a video for this, and if there is, how hard is that going to be, like in terms of obviously the placement of the story?
I think personally I can separate this song itself from the theme of the album. I know there's a lot of people that were saying if you listen to it backwards, then this is Eminem saying that he's in trouble and needs help. I personally just disassociate this from the theme of Death of Slim Shady. This kind of sounds to me like another way of delivering the message he had at the end of Revival, and that he's not going anywhere. He has fought it. He has gotten back up. He is with his family now. If I had to place it in the album, I'd say it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it doesn't really faze me anyway, because I'm kind of getting towards the end of the album now. He needs to wrap it up somehow, and unless he leaves it on a cliffhanger or actually does confirm that Slim Shady is dead and gone, there was never really going to be a satisfying end to it. So I am very happy of how this ended. I think it's definitely a standout on the whole album in a whole, but yeah, I do understand that some people might think it doesn't necessarily fit the theme.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So I think, of course, what we all are led to believe that is that Slim Shady dies at the end of Guilty Conscience 2, and then from then on, it is more Eminem and Marshall Mathers as a sort of the second part of the album. So it does make sense in the sort of the way it's sort of layered anyway with the track listing. So I think that he got that right with putting those emotional songs more towards the end of the album, because of course
agreed.
Shady isn't that sort of emotional character, obviously the real emotion is with Marshall Mathers himself, but yeah, it's a great way to end the album. And in total it was 19 tracks. It featured 10 artists. There was 18 producers in total, and the singles so far at this present time are Houdini, Toby and Somebody Save Me. Commercial performance, it got to number 1 in over 16 countries around the world. It sold 281,000 sales on its first week in America, getting to number 1 and dethroning Taylor Swift, who spent around about 12 weeks at the top. In the UK, it got to number 1 and it spent 3 weeks there as well. So shout out to all the UK fans, because that is unbelievable. 3 weeks at number 1 in the album charts, and it debuted at 45,000 sales in its first week, which made it the biggest first week sales in the UK this year, even better than the likes of Sabrina Carpenter, Post Malone and Taylor Swift, which was good to see. So what is your opinion, Ross? Of course, it's going to be one of these albums that it's too early on to sort of rank it in between different Eminem albums, but what is your overall opinion of this album?
If I'm being completely honest, and I genuinely said this to my older brother probably a couple of times after I've heard the album already, I stand by that this is probably his most consistent body of work since Recovery. I genuinely think this is probably some of his best work since Recovery as well. He's got a bit of everything for every part of his audience. There are some people who like the sad songs more. There are some people who like the storytelling. There are some people who just like it when he raps like crazy. That is all on this album. the first like 9 tracks of this album are like
unreal.
a roller coaster. It's just ridiculous. Honestly, I probably, if I had to give this an out of 10, I'm unsure in it, but so far it's a 9, easily.
Yeah, I'm a similar boat as well. Like I've loved, of course, like all Eminem albums, the last few, but there was just something about this album that it just stands out, even though it is very early on. But you've got, you know, tracks like Fuel, Habits, Antichrist, like even Brand New Dance. Like it's just, there's a good sort of throwback to the Encore days as well. So it's almost, for me anyway, it's almost perfect. It's, in my opinion, it's better than Music to Be Murdered by and Kamikaze and Revival, and it's somewhere it's somewhere in between, you know, Recovery and Marshall Mathers LP2. But there's just so many strong tracks. One thing that I like a lot about it is that it's not like sort of littered with too many features. That was my sort of critique with the last project, that the production was brilliant, but there was just maybe too many features on it when you include side B as well. But I think that the production from this album is flawless. There's so much Eminem and Resto like production on it, and I'm looking forward to how obviously it's going to sound in the next few months and years to come. But it's definitely going to be up there anyway, that's for sure.
I think it's a very strong testament to how AI could be used creatively and tastefully in the music industry. Has been some concern, I think we've discussed it on an episode before, that you're going to get to a point where you don't really know what's real and what's not. However, I didn't ever listen to a single one of the AI verses in this song, in this album, and think, oh yeah, he didn't write that. You can tell he's written it. It's the same flow. He's just got something to change the voice, and it's brought back a little bit of nostalgia that, like I said before, my parents, this is the Eminem they knew and they had to warn us about when we were younger and when we were growing up. And now he's back in full swing. I remember my mum the other day was telling my older brother, "Oh, you need to go on TikTok and make sure if your daughter's on TikTok that she isn't seeing any of these videos, because some of the stuff that he's saying is outrageous." And I was like, obviously I didn't want to bite and nibble. Yeah. But she understands him. She knows that that's just what he's like, and she said it's crazy that he's still doing this 20 years later. And I couldn't agree more. I think he's done it. I think he's achieved the point he was trying to make with this album, personally. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And as you says, like I had, it was my mum's 65th birthday the other night, and you know we came back and we're listening to music, and Fuel came on, and she was like, "What is this? Who's this? This is unreal." And I'm like, even 65-year-olds are enjoying this sort of track as well. So it just tells you that it's the amount of age ranges that obviously are into music and like his music as well. Just says something. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in the next coming months. Of course, we've got the Austin Formula One Grand Prix where he's going to perform along with Sting, and then he's heading to Abu Dhabi and Bahrain at the start of December, and then potential rumours of Australia, New Zealand next year, and of course Glastonbury. If you were a betting man, is Eminem going to be doing a UK tour in 2025? If I was a betting man, I wouldn't put a lot of money on it, but as a hopeful fan, I'd sacrifice my Christmas annual leave if it meant I could see him live one more time. And if it was for this album, I think it's a great way to send it out. If he said, "I'm not touring again, I might make music, but I'm never touring again," it needs to be for this album. Especially with, like you just said, 3 weeks at number one in the UK. He's obviously got so much appreciation here. It's such a missed opportunity if he doesn't. I know it would sell out in seconds. Like you said, it'd probably do the same up in Glasgow as well, as it would down here in London. But if I had to put money on it, I probably wouldn't say 2025. I'd like to think he maybe is gearing up for a tour. Whether it's a world tour, I just can't see that anymore. I think the days of world tours are done for him. It's just too much work. But maybe a Europe tour. 100%, I could see it happen. Yeah,
he's done a lot of European festivals across the summers over here in recent times. So, I mean, of course, Glastonbury. I mean, apparently Glastonbury have been trying to get him for 10, 15 years, and it's either just not been the right time, or there's been things in between that have happened or whatever. It's never gone through properly. But I think there was something in. When he was over in London for the Complex pop-up store, and then of course he joined Dre and Snoop for the Gin and Juice concert as well. I have a feeling that there potentially might have been negotiations with organisers with the potential of maybe him headlining Glastonbury, because they didn't. I think it was quite a strong lineup this year for Glastonbury, but apparently, SZA, she was one of the headline acts, and for nothing to do with her, I just don't think there was a huge sort of as many fans that turned out for that. I think they says it was the lowest attended headline slot ever at Glastonbury. So I think, so I think they're basically wanting to get, an absolute superstar for next year. So it does make sense, obviously, with this album coming out, and then of course him being in London for a few days. So I'm gonna put a little bit of confidence. I think there is an 85% chance that he will be in the UK next year for one sort of concert. I know that he is a fan of coming up to Scotland. I've seen him 4 times since 2010, I think it is. So he has been here quite a few times, and then of course he's done the Reading and Leeds Festival quite a few times as well. So fingers crossed for that, and we shall see how that unfolds. And in terms of us, that is our third and final review of the album. We are going to have a bonus episode in the next week or so, discussing the 2 bonus tracks from the deluxe editions. And we're also going to talk about the interview with Complex called The Face Off, which of course was Slim Shady versus Marshall Mathers. As well as that, there is a lot of for M. He has been nominated for around about 6 Artist of the Year, Video of the Year, Best Hip Hop. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about with that as well. And whatever happens, of course, between now and then, we will, of course, discuss. So, as always, if you're listening to us on whatever platform, just make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the notification. And as soon as another episode uploads, you'll be notified. And, of course, we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok, and we're on Instagram. To find us, just type in mainly Eminem. So, thank you to everyone that has listened. And, of course, thanks to Ross for joining me. And we shall see you again in next week or so. Thank you.